afternoon to everybody out on the East Coast. Good morning to those on the West Coast with me. Thanks so much for taking the time to join us today. We are going to be here to talk about Omnivore version 3.5. And man, do we have a lot to cover. We have a lot. I'm so excited. So I'll try not to talk too fast, try and touch on everything. But all of us are very excited about this release as we continue to make huge improvements in our devices. My name is Larry Compton. I'm Senior Instructor and Technology Evangelist for Motion Systems, and I am joined today, as always, by our Vice President of Sales, Charles Garino. Charles, how's it going?
Hello.
Haven't had much time to chat lately. We've been so busy. It's kind of crazy. Webinar questions and answers. If you've been to one of our webinars, you're familiar. If not, open up the Go-To Webinar Questions panel and pop that out, and then you can type in submit questions throughout the webinar as we proceed. And at the end, we'll try and set aside some times to answer those questions. And Charles will be helping me with that. Omnivore 3.5, let's get right into it. Not going to be a lot of slides, folks. We're going to show things right in the interface like we tend to do. But the gist of it, what's new, what's coming, why is it taking so darn long? Well, it has taken us, we really had intended to have this release out in March, but it was going to be a release with just a couple minor new features and improvements because we've already got 4.0 in the pipeline for full 64-bit. I mean, our programming team has just been crushing it. But then, of course, we stumbled on some stuff that we wanted to make sure got into this release, and of course, we want to make sure it's right before it's out there. So still in the pipeline, but I have a build I'm going to show you today that is absolutely solid, and I'm excited about. We expect it to be out on the street very, very soon. It will include lossless trimming in FFmpeg Convert. This is, really a convenient feature to have so that you can minimize, how much storage, processing cycles. It basically expedites workflows by minimizing how much media you're actually working with. If you're not familiar with lossless trimming, well, lossless trimming is a basic, capability of FFmpeg Convert, and so it is not a frame-accurate process. It is entirely based on the source's stream and container. So if FFmpeg, can read the source and the stream properly, then it will be able to work quite efficiently. If it does not understand the container, well, that's a lot less information for FFmpeg to be able to leverage to do a lossless trim, right? But if it doesn't understand the container, for instance, .xyz, but it does understand that there's a AVC video stream inside that container, chances are you may be able to work with it in FFmpeg. And we preach about tools, validating processes, and ours are just as important to validate as everyone else's, whether it's Microsoft, Adobe, Avid, whomever's tools. You are the one that has to testify to what you're doing, so make sure you're validating. And certainly, even more red flags arise when leveraging open source solutions like FFmpeg. One of the best solutions out there, of course, as far as frameworks, open source frameworks for processing multimedia, but not just open source frameworks. It's one of the best back-end engines, period. But as with everything, there are strengths and weaknesses, and we try to teach our users and our clients how to leverage those strengths and minimize those weaknesses, including, documenting every single thing that FFmpeg puts out via the command line in our nice little save report feature. So we'll be talking about lossless trimming, actually showing that, and then our new preview player for FFmpeg Convert. So if you've used FFmpeg Convert in the past, we're using FFplay for you to be able to quickly preview your files and FFplay is just keyboard shortcuts, spacebar for pause, etc. So we wanted to improve on that, and in this iteration, we have a new player in there with intuitive, basic mark in and mark out controls, clear controls, things of that nature that I'm going to show you that I think you're really going to like. like. It certainly helps with this lossless trimming process as well. So that was these are the two features we had really intended to release with 3.5, but again, we stumbled on a bunch of other things, like we've made significant improvements on the performance of Omnivore uncompressed screen captures. So you'll see better optimization results in both captures locally on your mobile or desktop systems, as well as when you're using it with our Field Kit. That's kind of huge. But what's even bigger than that is the new Omnivore Field Kit viewer window, because it is scalable, among other things. So I'm going to show you that. It's really, really slick. What do we do when we're dealing with systems that are outputting to their monitors, to their displays at 1080p and higher resolutions, that sort of thing? Well, we are certainly working along the ways to address all of those things, and this is one of those ways. So lots of other stuff going on. I'm getting ready to jump in and show you, but I want to remind everybody that does have an old Omnivore drive, because Omnivore has been a market-leading solution for so long. They're often found in desks and drawers in some agencies. It is, proliferated throughout the entire country and, in fact, the world, as a very valuable and portable solution for doing recoveries, processing evidence, etc. But if you have one of those old devices, hey, you can get a new USB 3, double the storage size, increase your speeds, and start leveraging things like the Omnivore Field Kit as well on that new drive. So you can see the prices on the screen, also on our store, which we'll talk about later, because a lot going on with our website and some new apps we've released as well. So, not talking too fast, am I, Charles?
No.
Okay. Hey, I appreciate that. Omnivore Field Kit. So before we get into the interface, those not familiar, the Omnivore Field Kit has been a key solution for both documenting video recoveries, as well as, of course, overcoming challenges with video recoveries where you might not be able to get to the native file right away, or there's issues with the systems, or the screens, out front and the system's out back, or the stuff is stored at an offsite location and it might take a day or two to get to the best evidence. Well, we can get evidence out of there right away, and we can get uncompressed evidence out of there right away. Actionable information that we can get out on the street, very, very quickly. In fact, it's as simple as arriving on the scene and plugging in a USB cable and then the display cable to the back of the DVR, and then launching your Omnivore. HP mobile workstations, holy cow. We have been doing great. HP has done some great things with these workstations. If you're not familiar, we started standardizing on HP products quite some time ago, became a certified partner, of course. Those not familiar with our company history, over 30 years old now, and we were very, very early on into developing graphic solutions on the Windows platform. In fact, the first integrator for Avid Media Composer on the PC. So that's something we'd like to talk about. And but we did the luggables for ruggedized military applications, all that stuff. But things continue to improve on HP's front, and I tell you, these G7s have just grown leaps and bounds from Gen 1 all the way up to Gen 7 now, and there's even a Gen 8 in the pipeline. Chip shortages be damned. We've been doing pretty good at getting everything in, and the benefit of going through us, why don't I just order through HP? Well, you certainly can, and you may have GSA contracts to do that. However, we can customize the HP workstations, and we're certified, a partner, and provide the extended support, all of those types of things. We can add memory. These things are so modular and fast, whether it's in combination with our Field Kit, or whether it just becomes your personal or business new home device. I use one as my primary workstation at home, not the G7 model, the HP model, along with my tower workstation. And a lot of my friends and colleagues do as well. In fact, a few have picked up this G7, and just had a discussion with one of them yesterday, an instructor for Aviva, who's was just got it for his personal business and instructing and things of that nature, and he just was loving it, absolutely loving it. Sent me a picture of his setup with the displays side by side using his USB 3 dock. He didn't go with the Thunderbolt dock, but these things, just unbelievable how much RAM, storage, and processing power, plus substantially lighter than the G6. Every iteration gets smaller, lighter, thinner, so certainly reach out to us for more information on those. Trying to hurry along so we can get into the interface, but I can't jump over this. This is absolutely huge. It is the core of our solutions going forward. It is QuickDME, started out as essentially an asset manager and is growing into the very product that we had envisioned all along, which is essentially a solutions manager. It's Windows Explorer on steroids. It's VLC on steroids. It's all of these things, note-taking, asset management if you want it, task management, assign things. You can have custom fields, custom reports, all of those things. That's side of that, right? Well, now we're in the processing side. We're at the point where we're starting to leverage putting all of our processing solutions into our core, including the new QuickView LT player. This thing has made my life so much easier, as well as a lot of my peers and colleagues and clients. But it is a right click away in your Windows Explorer context menu when you have QuickDME installed, and it's integrated with Omnivore such that you can leverage Omnivore FFmpeg Convert right through the QuickView player. So let's make this clear. We certainly have a free 30-day demo of QuickDME. We do, and I'm going to talk about that in the next slide. But QuickView LT is a free video player. You have to install QuickDME to have it, but it's a free video player, and I'll show you the difference whether or not it's licensed or unlicensed. So one of the features of that, we'll show running multiple metadata reports. That is the only feature you lose. In fact, when the license expires, you'll still have the player, still have the basic capabilities in our QuickView preview player. Omnivore FFmpeg Convert integration, of course, is huge, and we're getting ready to show that. But that demo package with QuickDME is a quick, easy download from our downloads page. Supports Windows 7 through Windows 10. We strongly recommend Windows 10, of course. Very few resource requirements for QuickDME installation. Essentially, it's a database. We're going to, the demo package is going to include Microsoft SQL Server Express. But as I was saying before, Windows Explorer on steroids. You can add custom fields. You can add custom metadata. So on and so forth. And it's that SQL database that allows us to do all of those things. So you get a demo database and all the assets you need to play with, and I'll pop into that real quick if we have time at the end as well. But it is a much improved installation process. So if you had tried it in the past and you're like, I don't want to set up SQL and all of that business, you no longer have to do that. You simply have to download the demo package. It's about 1 gig in size. And once you have it downloaded, run the installer. Follow the prompts on your screen, Windows 7 through Windows 10, and it will install a bunch of sample assets, videos, images, 3 user licenses, as well as our user guides and stuff. And you can start doing some of the stuff I'm getting ready to show you. So with that said, I am going to show you. Let's pop over to my desktop here, and you can see I have my Omnivore drive plugged in. Now, if you're on a USB to Omnivore, you maybe, I get this question once in a while. It's showing up as a CD-RW on my one system and a DVD-RW on another. Why would that be? Well, DVD-RW is for the USB 3 drives, this ROM partition. When you select it in your Explorer window, this ROM partition, you can't write files to here, you can't do anything. You can move things off. I can copy my Omnivore Viewer off to the desktop. That's a freely distributable viewer, right? But I can't add files here. We have our unsecured partition and, of course, the secured partition right within the Omnivore interface for doing that. And so if I have time, we'll touch on that reminder again as well. But before I jump into the interface, a few other updates and changes, particularly in the help section, which we point out in the new help guide. We have, of course, the guides folder, which we've always had, but we've updated some documents in there, obviously, and we've gone and added some more videos. So in the videos folder, you'll find some more sample videos. This doesn't have this mobile device sample that's in here. It's going to be replaced. We have about 3 other example videos that will go in here from mobile devices. We have a sample 960H recording from a 960H recorder that had a 4:3 camera configured with it, so a traditional CCTV camera. And that recording is actually a sample recording created by Scott, who was shared with the community. And thank you very much, Scott, for doing that. Also, in the digital CCTV examples, we have an EverFocus folder with an EverFocus AVR file and some notes about the EverFocus AVR file. So, for instance, if I click on this, I'm going to just pop this over to my screen, and you'll see interrogate this file. This is a great example to learn about proprietary containers and standardized streams. So, we're missing a lot of, even with standard streams, if we're not parsing everything properly, we need to understand that. So, interrogating your source and media, run an XML frame analysis report from Omnivore's FFmpeg Convert on this file, review the report with the 9th columns, and know that even though FFmpeg only sees one stream, it actually has 2 different sizes of images in there. What's that tell you? Well, probably 2 streams, right? At least, etc. So extract all frames, and of course that would, give you images of 2 different sizes. That would be another clue for you. So things like that to try and help people, become more familiar. Other example videos we have in the Calibrate folder, our old 320 by 240, as well as a new AVI color cube calibration file just generated from VirtualHub. So lots of neat stuff to work with. In fact, I think what I'll do is I'm going to come back over here and jump right in the interface, and we'll start leveraging some of those videos. So Omnivore, let's do it. Double click on my Omnivore drive. Now auto run is going to work, of course, if you set your settings in your operating system to let auto run work. Well, then Omnivore will just pop up on your screen like this. Even easier. So let me minimize a few of these things, clean up my screen, and we can see, let me show you over here on the Utilities tab, our version 3.5. I'm on an alpha build, so bear with me if anything happens to booger up. But we haven't put this out yet. But as you can see, version 3.5. Interface all remains the same. Our tabbed layout, very step by step. Our help guides, as I mentioned, has been updated. But let me just show you on the page itself a few other resources added to help. So links to software updates and release notes, video on our new Quick View LT player, understanding video players, as well as some video standards and aspect ratio charts, and a little mention about the sample files and stuff as well. So make sure you do check out the updated help information. But now that we've got Omnivore open, let's look at some of the cool stuff we can do here, right? So, of course, those not familiar, we can do screen captures. But I want to talk about the changes in FFmpeg Convert. First and foremost, lossless trimming. So I'm not going to be in the screen capture interface. Where does that live? It actually lives in the viewer, right? Our Omnivore Viewer. So I'm going to run the viewer from the Omnivore drive through the interface, or I'm going to come over here and click on Omnivore Viewer to run the viewer. If I run the viewer from my desktop or anywhere I've copied it, what I'm getting ready to do is not going to work. FFmpeg is not going to be available to you if you're running it from a local copy, only when you're running it from our drive. So I'm going to grab this, drop it over here, and it says, hey, we can't parse this file. That's because I'm running it from this local copy. But if I come over here, launch this one, drop this file in, there's FFmpeg Convert. Okay, so again, move some things out of the way here. So very intuitive process as far as just dragging and dropping a file in. Other ways to open, of course, are file, open OMVA, or open with FFmpeg Convert. So you can just simply browse to your files and open that way. So let me go back and grab one of these sample files. In fact, this should be fine. Drop it into Omnivore and show you a few things about the new interface, including some updates to the file info tab. And you'll see a new lossless trim option here that's not going to be available until we actually do a trim. All of this came off from our development work on the player, which is eventually going to be, as you probably project in your mind, where we're going with all this into one player, one engine, making things as simple and easy as possible as we can. But now when I click on here, I've got our new player, our all new previewer for FFmpeg Convert, and we can, of course, simple, straightforward user controls, play pause. We can do some scrubbing. We can mark an in, and then I can come forward and mark an out. Oop, let me go back and mark my in. I'm sorry, there, mark my in, and so I've got an in and out marked on this video, and simply click OK, and it's going to apply that. So you'll see frame numbers, your timing information, all kinds of helpful information. And once I click apply, well, there's my times, my in point and my out point. Now, if I want to trim, I simply check the trim box, and those will be leveraged as our processing. If I want to lossless trim, well, I can check the lossless trim box, and you'll notice it is not frame accurate, ignores other options. That's back to the discussion earlier about this entirely depends on the container and streams you're trying to losslessly trim. So for instance, if you have a group of pictures or a GOP that is 300 frames long, and you try to set your endpoint on frame 280 of that 300 frame GOP, unfortunately, your endpoint is going to be moved to the previous reference frame, 280 frames prior, or 279 frames prior. So essentially, it's going to mark the in on the nearest reference frame. So that's why we make it very, very clear, not frame accurate. And again, of course, we have our logs that we'll be saving. So file name prefix is always going to be our original name. And then I can tell it where to go. I'm going to put this into some folder onto my desktop. With lossless trim, everything else in the interface is going to be ignored. So lossless trim must be done independently. However, outside of trimming, I can do as many things as I want in the interface at once. And everything will be run through, and you'll be able to save your log afterwards. So generally, my workflow, just a simple soup to nuts. I come into FFmpeg Convert, and typically I'm running this FFprobe frame information report and viewing it with our XML viewer to get an idea of my samples, interrogate my media right down to the sample level. And so that's in training. We talk about that a lot in training. We do a lot of that in our remote training stuff, which we'll mention later on. But when I'm trimming, lossless trimming is the only option you're going to be able to use at that time. And then I simply click OK, like with everything else. Once it completes, it's going to try and open your folder, and there's my losslessly trim AVI file. And I can simply right-click, go to my Play with Quick View Previewer, and there it is in my Quick View Previewer. And you can see I started on frame 205 where I marked my endpoint, right? And so we have losslessly trimmed this file down from its original size, reduced it in file length and everything without impacting the quality of the original images or the original video streams. Very, very convenient, especially when you're dealing with video alignment. So if you're dealing with massive amounts of video and you're bringing them into real-time alignment for either investigative or forensic purposes, you need a nonlinear editor to do that. And of course, whether it's Media Composer or Adobe Premiere Pro, working with all of the original media can be extremely resource intensive, as I'm going to show you in another example. But since I'm right here, I want to show you a few other things since I've got this player open, including that metadata report I mentioned. So I'm just going to go ahead and click the metadata report in our quick viewer, and I'll move this over so you can see what's going on here. So our 3-column summary metadata report is going to give you an XF Tools, Media Info, and FF Pro summary of what those tools see. It gives you the version of those tools and a basic summary of what they see in this container. Up top, you can go to any one of the tabs and get to their detailed output and see their detailed information. So for instance, I can see my image width and height here with XF Tools. I can come down and see this was motion JPEG, so on and so forth. But I have this nice summary report that I can, simply copy and, paste into other reports. Let me get this out of the way and just paste that summary report right into another report. I can also save it by simply clicking the Save button. And when it comes up to save to PDF, it will all be saved into one PDF document with a page or two if required for each of those reports. I can choose which to include, which not to include. And I can also obfuscate the file path, right? And you'll notice the report includes your MD5 and your SHA-1 hashing, as well as file metadata, file system metadata. So all of these options available to you. Just click OK, and I can put this on my desktop as a sample, and click Save. And it should generate that PDF, drop it onto my desktop, and there she be. I can just go ahead and open. There's my metadata summary report, and as I go through the pages, it'll go through my XF Tools, Media Info, FF Pro, etc. So a nice, neat way to hash, to interrogate, to get right to the evidence. Well, also in the player, since I'm here, I might as well just, I don't want to be bouncing all over, but I can just do, a copy frame. Now, with our Quick View LT player, its entire purpose is to be quick, to give you quick access to your evidence, to the viewable or audio multimedia information, right? So it is not intended to be used for screen capturing from. That's not what it was designed for. It is intended to give you access to our solutions for interrogating your media quickly, and for our quick DME customers, you can leverage tons more capability inside Access DME for processing as well. But I can do things like, copy this frame copy to clipboard, and then just paste this into my report, right? And when I do, notice what size it pasted it at. It's pasted it at 640 by 480, exactly how it's stored, right? How it's stored. Now how it's displayed, so it's displayed at 612 by 460 here, and if I can scale this up. Now it's going to tell me, well, I'm displaying it at 1080 by 816. It's stored at this. I want my images at this. We're not doing a screen capture. When we do this, we are grabbing the actual frame from that video to paste into your report. It's important to understand, especially when we deal with proprietary files. So I'm going to show you a proprietary file, that EverFocus example here next. Other things, though, include the ability to, copy all of this metadata or just one of the fields. So if I want to copy all of the metadata for a report, I can left or right click on the word metadata. Just click it, say copy to clipboard, right? And I can go over here, get my cursor working, and do a paste, and paste that metadata in, right? And then copy the frame and paste that frame in. So all of that's pretty cool. Left or right clicking on any of the fields is really helpful for things like packet position. So if I want to get into that XML report and find this particular packet in that report, I can just left or right click on packet position to copy to clipboard, and then search in that XML report to find that particular packet, all of the metadata pertaining to that sample. So lots of neat features, obviously in our quick view player, but we're here to talk about Omnivore. So let's get back to doing that. I'm going to close these to get them out of the way. So you've seen the lossless trim. You've got an idea on the player, but let's take a look at how about a proprietary example. Go with that. I'll pop into here. We can work with this, but I'll grab a proprietary. And since I've got my viewer open, I can either just drag it up here. Now, what's interesting about this is a proprietary .avr file, right, from an EverFocus system. So what happens if I try to go File, Open with FFmpeg Convert, and I browse to that file? So original media is on my NVMe. Down here to my original media. Oh no, I did it on the help files. My bad. Videos and digital CCTV EverFocus. Wait a second, it's not seeing that file in there. Remember, we had selected FFmpeg files. FFmpeg doesn't know EverFocus is .avr, so if you're looking for proprietary files and whether or not you might be able to work with them in FFmpeg, choose all files. And you'll see all files. You'll be able to select the proprietary one and see if FFmpeg can work with it. And FFmpeg says, hey, we see some stuff here. That does not mean it sees it right. It does not mean it's seeing everything, etc. So again, take it with a grain of salt, but very, very handy for interrogating, very, very quick way to get to the bottom and get some actual information out of the stream. So let's look at this. You can see in our file info information, this looks like a 704 by 240. It says 25 frames per second. Well, I know this file was recovered here in North America, so I doubt it's a PAL-based file, number one. So it's not phase alternating line. That's North American Television Standards Committee, NTSC. I'm pretty sure of that. And why I might be pretty sure of that? We'll look at the storage dimensions. 704 by 240. That is a derivative of NTSC, right? So I'm pretty confident already. I certainly want to validate that this was set up as an NTSC recording, and that it is FFmpeg doesn't understand the container, so it's just using its default 25 frames per second, right? So red flag. And speaking of red flags, in our another product that's coming, you'll see those red flags. You'll see things like that say, hey, red flag, you might want to consider this. Hey, red flag, this is an AVI file, and AVI files don't support pixel aspect ratio, so on and so forth. Because we want you to know. We want you to know what our tool's doing, the strengths and weaknesses of our tools, as well as others. I highly recommend you validate regardless of whose tools it is. But you can see, wait a second, Larry. Now, it said it was stored at 704 by 240. Is this thing messing up? Is this thing messing up? No, it's not messing up. Two things are happening here. Our player is going to leverage our research on display aspect ratio. So within the player, when we get to the next product that you'll see, I don't want to talk about too much, but it's automatically going to display by default at the proper display aspect ratio. So in this case, it's 4:3. This was a 4:3 CCTV camera recorded to a proprietary DVR at these dimensions, but that's not how it should be displayed properly. So our player says, hey, I know these dimensions and I know how they're supposed to be displayed. I'm going to display them this way. In the full version, you'll be able to also look at it this way, the native way. But for this, you don't need that at this point. I could still try and do things like move forward, but whoa, wait, hey, what? Oh my, look at that. Do you see that? Yeah, different cameras. So, and man, is that guy ugly. But in any case, this this is an entirely different resolution. So this is only seeing 704 by 240, but this isn't 704 by 240. The other one was. So these are the sorts of things that we can help you with in our training. I can come up here and I mark my in. Maybe I want to just grab this ball section or something, mark it out, and I can just export those images as whatever I wanted to export them as. So lots of things, but let's take a look at what the heck's going on here and why we had two different cameras. This is the best way to find out, folks. Look at the metadata on every sample from your file. This FFmpeg or FFprobe, report on frame information is key. So I'm going to go ahead and run one on that report or on that file real quick, and we'll take a quick look at it. I think it's worthwhile to understand that when we're dealing with proprietary containers, FFmpeg doesn't have, just like you, FFmpeg doesn't have any idea what that box is, right? It's a box they've never seen before, but they may have seen the streams inside of it, and they say, hey, well, I see the streams, I don't understand this box, so I'm going to ignore it. But you can see here, it's a proprietary box, a .avr file, right? Proprietary container. It ran an XML report, opens up in our brand new FFmpeg XML viewer. I shouldn't say brand new, it's been around for a while, but we continue to make improvements in it as well, of course. Feature creep. So you can see both video and audio samples. And in this case, we just have video. And you can see whatever columns in this report. You can resize the display, right? We can choose which columns we want to see in this report. So I can choose maybe anything like height and width, or turn off packet DTS, but I can search for that packet position for a sample that we saw in the quick view player, right? I can do things like sort and etc. So I can, furthermore, with our preview player, it's I can save this log, right? And all of the processing that I've done here gets saved in a nice little, let me go ahead and put this into my temporary, nice little text file. So including your output. So I'm just going to leave it as the default, and then we're going to go in there and I'll show you this report. Includes our version information, all of your FFmpeg information, as well as the libraries compiled inside of FFmpeg and their version information, and of course FFmpeg's output. So everything documented in detail for you with our report features as well, which is a really handy feature. So we've got that FFprobe report. Let's go ahead and take a look at this file a little bit closer. Let's open that report. Where did I save it? Did I just put it on my desktop? Charles, you got to be paying attention to help me out.
What report are you talking about? That report?
Yeah.
Or the XML report?
The XML report. Did I just run it and save it on my desktop?
I don't know that you saved. Well, yeah, you saved it when you ran it. Where's most recent files?
Yeah, so let's see here. Just bring up.
Is a safe location in your... Oh, you already closed it?
Yeah, I closed it out. But in any case, yeah, so if I go in here, I was pretty sure I had set. There it is. I knew it was on the desktop, dang it. Sorry about my messy desktop, folks. I try and clean it up before webinars and stuff. But here's that Excel. Wasting a little time, Larry. Excel. I'm going to open this with Microsoft Excel and take a look at something.
Or Xbox.
Yeah, or Xbox. We can do that too. Yeah, why not? My son would love that. Well, actually, he's on PS5 guys. I'll get this out of the way. Yes, an XML table, and yes, parse the XML table. And inside this XML report, we're going to find some interesting information about this proprietary file. So same sort of view as we have in our portable XML viewer, which is really great as a previewer type thing on this XML report in the field, and we'll continue to improve on that. But of particular note here, I want to come over to width and height, right? So let's just look at width and height column, 2 different values. Same height value, but our width value is different. So we have a stream that's recorded at 352 by 240 and another stream recorded at 704 by 240. So a lot of information can be gleaned here, including, you know, how long a sample frame should be displayed, where it was encoded, what position, the coding position, the display provision, and a ton of information. Of course, all of this available in the documentation from SWIG.DE. Their FFmpeg technical notes document discusses a lot of these capabilities. So I highly recommend you check out the SWIG.DE FFmpeg technical notes documentation. So we've looked at the lossless trimming, the new player a little bit, quick view a little bit. Let's talk about Field Kit, because I am running a little behind on time, and I knew, as excited as I was about all this stuff, it was going to be something. I'm going to come over here and actually put this to my desktop as well, which is a much smaller drive, right? So let's take a look at this. My desktop, or just C. Let's put it on my desktop.
Not the desktop.
Yeah, I know, right? And then I'm gonna click Set to TFP to make sure that my temporary file is on the same drive. That's all. It doesn't need to be the same folder because it's a temporary file. But I want this set to TFP. If I had changed this to, D, and then not change the temp file, well, the temp file is going to be recorded to C, and then you want the output to D. All that data has to be moved. So if you've done some huge captures, that can be problematic. Make sure you set that TFP. So I'm just going to do this. But another thing we often talk about and stress in training is this is very important. Where we're outputting this is very, very important. We're going to look at your storage, how much storage you have available there, how fast that storage is, and everything, right? So, let me take a look.
Choose your fastest, biggest drive.
Exactly. You want the most free space and as fast as you can possibly get. Now I've got, some systems. You can see my C drive. I've only got 132 gig free. Now it's an NVMe or an SSD, and I also have some NVMe storage, PCI NVMe, but it's an SSD, pretty fast, really fast. Definitely going to use it over a single, traditional drive. I also have a couple drives striped and a RAID 0 for performance with lots more space available. So this is where I really should be using. I also have this NVMe, which is faster than everything here, but it doesn't have as much space as this. So typically I would go to D. But I want to do an example and show you just 132 gig on my C drive. I want to make sure my TFP is set there, and then we're going to go back and check out the Field Kit viewer. So on our Utilities tab, move this over a little bit so you can see a little bit better. On our Utilities tab, I am going to click the Field Kit viewer button, and oh my goodness, would you look at that? Would you look at that? It's a brand new Field Kit viewer window. Boy, sometimes I wish people weren't muted, so I do want
I'll give you an ooh, ah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
Ooh.
I'm going to change the
Right.
color of this overlay, snap it to the window, and look, boom. So first things first with a new Field Kit viewer, what's the concept here? Of course, we are making this system, the host system, the laptop, in this case, my desktop, the display output for whatever device you're connected the Field Kit to. It's a simple USB connection to your host, and then disconnect the display from the DVR or computer or what have you, right? And connect the other end of this USB 3 device to to that display output. And very, very straightforward. Now, the new viewer, as you can see, is scalable. However, the video is not scaling with it. We have settings down here to control that much better now. We can see it at full 100%. We can zoom, control it. I'm going to close my overlay just to get it out of the way here. And then I'm going to go back and hit the settings button down here at the bottom of the viewer. So I'm going to hit the settings button, and you can see I can just type in, 100%, and bang, it's at 100%. So this is 100% of the output from the device sending me a signal right now through my Omnivore Field Kit. Now you can see signal 1024 by 768 down here at 1.333, 60 hertz. How it's being displayed, is right below that, and then the zoom level and manual zoom settings. So some really nice improvements there. This is cool because I can bring it right down and zoom in and zoom out. How does this help? Well, what if I'm dealing with UHD and higher stuff, right? I don't have to get it at 100% if I'm, number one, if it's investigative, number two, if it's documentation, right? If we're doing an investigative capture for purposes of expediency, hey, a native file is always going to be your best evidence. It's the only one that's going to have the metadata. It's going to be your first instance recording. That's always going to be your best evidence. We've never argued that. However, we can get stuff out on the street faster, in many cases, a lot faster, uncompressed. And of course, we could document your entire recovery in a video so that you don't have to manually write down all of those settings to do that. So in any case, same with any other Omnivore capture, whatever size I have it at, you can see right now it's displaying 737 by 553, and that's also displayed in my interface, my overlay dimensions, right? Because I locked to it, I locked to screen. Of course, another important tip, always lock to Windows when you can. That limits how many resources Omnivore is going to need to use. So always lock to Windows when you can. But if you can't, well, hey, just do what you got to do, man. We're going to grab this player. I'll just grab this section like this and see what it says. Remember, I'm on my C drive limited. Just going to go ahead and click optimize while we're taking a look at here and see what it gives me. I don't know. I haven't even tried this, folks, quite honestly, on this. So it'll be interesting to see. Look at that. Playback rate too high. Oh, come on. For real? Well, all right, let me try this. How about snap to window? Remember what I said? Snap to window is going to, look at what it's saying. Player's trying to go at 28 frames per second. Recommended sampling would be twice that, Nyquist theory. And our maximum machine sampling right now, 36 frames per second. Eeks. A lot more information than we used to provide on our optimization stuff, which is, kind of cool. But I'm just going to reset, because anytime I fail an optimization or I don't believe my system's keeping up with the playback, because Omnivore is not going to drop a frame ever without stopping by default, right? But what if your player's dropping a frame? So we can't tell that through. So if I think, hey, something's not right, I'm going to always reset, and then I'll just optimize. So right now I'm snapped to the entire window and see if we get anything better off from that result. And hey, says too high. Okay, so it says I can get 50. Look at this, max sampling 50 now. It's pretty interesting. Let's go down to, well, how about we just type it in? 50%, right? Okay, and we'll try it again. I'm just going to reset, and we'll try it again. And I'm doing all of this to troubleshoot and show some examples of the process. I'm going to turn it to my D drive so you can see it work properly. But, these are the types of things that people call about all the time when capturing. Why is this happening? Why is it sample rate too high? Again, we can control our software and the host windows, but we can't control the player and whether or not it drops frames, etc. And remember, multimedia is a resource-intensive process. It's unlike any other type of digital evidence in that it requires the proper hardware and software resources in order to play and interpret that information accurately, right? Remember, the other thing about multimedia, everything about it was built for convenience, not accuracy. Everything about it, most computationally complex thing your computer does. But in any case, now you can see I got a much better result. I've got 32 frames per second. It's showing me everything. I can do my captures just like any other capture. And when we go to, a much larger drive, well, hey, I've got much more space, much more capability. So it's also why we ship. I'm just going to cancel out of here. But it's also why we ship Omnivore with an SSD. Let's go back.
And the field kit.
And yes, and the field kit. So when you buy the field kit, you end up getting, go ahead and bring that up. You end up getting an SSD. Whoops.
So, faster CPU computers with modern, faster RAM, with modern, faster hard drives, from spindle being slower to SSD being faster to now the M.2 being multiple times faster than even an older SSD.
Exactly. And so, of course, other product updates. I'm not sure if we got questions, Charles, but other product updates, Quick DME 4.1, I've already mentioned. That includes the free QuickView LT player. That's free to anybody in support as of January 14th of this year. So be sure to check that out in the demo. Of course, we've got some new desktop and a new desktop and mobile application. Our site on your phone, on your desktop, much more efficient, secure, and integrated with your operating system. So I'm going to try and show that real quick. ClearID 3.5 released in back in the end of October, along with the new version of Photoshop 2021. That's free to those in support as of October of last year. Detective 8.1. Huge improvements on developer that came out last summer, as well as Spotlight Redact, 4 targets in one plugin. So if you haven't checked that out, that is Detective 8.1 on Avid Media Composer. And then, of course, our Detective 8.1 is also available as a beta on Adobe Premiere Pro or for After Effects. And the beta is now in version 3 of the beta. We're considering a version 4 of the Adobe Premiere Pro Detective. However, we haven't had, to be quite honest, we haven't had a ton of feedback on the beta. We've had, a few dozen folks, comment that they're leveraging it. They also use Avid. They have Avid and Premiere Pro, but they use it in both platforms. But we're really interested in your feedback. So if you are a Detective customer or not, you can demo it, run it in demo mode in Premiere Pro. We'd love to hear your feedback and whether or not it's worth us putting more time into developing that branch and developing the detective filters on the Adobe platform. Because as you can imagine, the more host applications we have to support, the more resources and time that takes from our end, of course. So it's all about making your life easier. So we'd really like to hear from you on that. What's next?
Larry, what's your next scheduled webinar?
That's coming up. Yeah, it's coming up next month. We have another one scheduled next month. We have a detective release coming out with a new matrix effect, so on and so forth. So, yeah, go ahead, Charles. I'm sorry. Let me pop.
I'd also like to encourage everybody to go to our website and subscribe to the our list. If you have a chance, you can pop up the website and show them where that button is, Larry. Larry did a wonderful job of implementing some new push notifications. So you see in the right-hand corner over here, a little red circle. If you go to our website now, you can subscribe to notifications that actually, Larry can better describe how the magic of that happens, but it'll just pop up notifications through your operating system. But the best way that you're going to get information from us is we have he was going to show you how you can install Tile. Here's where you subscribe to where It's getting harder and harder to email blast things out to people. I still do it, but the first place we always push information out is through through our email notification system. So if you go here and click on there, subscribe, or if you want to be a little bit more lazy, just email me that you want me to subscribe you, and I'll throw your name in real quick.
Yes. So our list.
There is a question.
Okay, what do we got?
Somebody's asking, is there a way to screen capture lossy so I can capture for longer? Omnivore files are huge.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. We can, of course, in the interface. We can, choose to allow it to drop frames, but we are not yet implementing a lossy compression on capture. We do still have a legacy product that's based off from QuickTime that we provide to detective customers called Decoder. It's our legacy product because Omnivore it replaced it. It relies on QuickTime, and as you know, QuickTime's deprecated on Windows, so Adobe, Avid, us, everybody's tried to move away from that framework and leverage more, quite frankly, open source solutions, FFmpeg, libav, things of that nature. So Decoder can help you in those situations, not mobile situations, but there are other great examples. In fact, even on our support page, if you go to our support page, Charles had put up a free screen recorder, Screenomatic. Again, not a forensic tool, but it's a great tool for doing non-forensic screen captures. It's a web-based tool, and you can screen capture, non-forensically, and deal with, whether it's showing a problem you're having with your tool, software, system, or what have you. And of course, we have fast support. We use fast support so that we can get right into our customer systems, and it's been great for us, and we can get right to your desktop and leverage, working with you one-on-one, just like we do in our training sessions. So in regards to events and training, let's take a look. Events page. You can see today's webinar, and we've got a detective webinar coming up in May. We've got a quick DME one in June and a Clear ID one set up for July. Now we may be adding more, of course, to this calendar, so keep an eye on the events tab there. The other thing I want to point out briefly, Avid Media Composer Training. Avid does have their own certification, of course, and they have done a tremendous job, in my opinion, over the last year during COVID, putting out live webinars and online training. It only continues to improve, and frankly, their entire MC 101 and MC 110 course can be done remotely through certified Avid partners, and you can apply and take the Avid certified user exam. So it's really a cost-effective, great way, especially if you're going to be doing a lot of non-linear forensic or production-based work. I highly recommend it. So we may occasionally feature that stuff too.
I got another question.
Yeah.
We get a lot. What is this one here? It was, does Omnivore handle variable frame rate videos? So there's a couple of different ways to do that with Omnivore, and we're really kind of getting to a couple of tips and trick type things with Omnivore. Like when Larry was showing you earlier, when you snap to Windows, that's much more efficient than drawing, because when you snap, it knows exactly where that lives in memory, right? So it can do a much more efficient job of grabbing it. If you've got dual monitors set up and you're drawing, you can unplug one of your monitors. That'll make the capture work better. One way that I know I've talked with people about before, maybe I'll let Larry talk about it because I'm not sure if he supports the idea or not, but if you enable audio, then it acts kind of like a metronome, right? So if you have variable speeds of video and you have audio enabled, whether you have audio that you want to capture or not, that's a technique you might want to look into. Or you just have to, you can optimize to the fastest section and capture it all that way, and then come back in the viewer and mark in, mark out where it's slower, and just when you go to export it, change the frame rate to the proper frame rate.
Correct.
two viable ways, Larry?
Yeah, I mean, so what you want to do with variable frame rate, now we have in our next iteration, the 64-bit version of Omnivore coming 4.0. We have some major changes to this process specifically directed at variable frame rate. But in any case, in the current shipping version, that is correct. Yes, you would essentially look for the most active part of the video where you believe the highest frame rate to be to do your sampling from, your optimization. So where you see the most activity in the videos, where you want to optimize, because that's where your frame rates are going to be highest. And then we take advantage of leveraging the audio synchronization. The issue here then becomes how those frames are locked to the audio. So we have, like Charles was saying, a metronome that does that, a process, an active audio sync that does that. But when we have a variable frame rate, well, then those frames aren't evenly spread out. So it can be problematic. We have the tips that Charles discussed, but Node 4.0 is going to be there to help as well.
One more question here is kind of goes to what we were just talking about. Somebody saying they're getting problems with the speed, the rate too high. There's references to this in the documentation of different things you can do. Reboot your computer, have continuous free RAM available. If you have dual monitors, you might want to unplug one of your monitors. If you're drawing, you might want to snap. If you can't, you can, if you're working on a 1024 video and you have your monitor set up to 4K and you're drawing, well, don't have your monitor set up that high. Change your graphics card to a lower resolution that's big enough to house what you're trying to capture.
Yeah, I mean, I know we're going a little bit over here, but that's a big one. A lot of people don't seem real familiar with, how video is actually drawn onto a display, and there are literally hundreds of variables involved in this process, and many different technologies leveraged. Omnivore operates at the operating system level, so it's grabbing the video from the operating system. If your driver is not, whatever display driver you're leveraging does not loop that video back, if it's using GPU hardware acceleration without loop back, well, then we don't see it. So there's all kinds of things, but right in our help files, there will now be, as you will see, there's this video players. It talks about those very issues, particularly in this case, it does so using the Microsoft Media Player, because you would think, well, hey, Microsoft Media Player, what's there to know about Microsoft Media Player? I've been using that since I was blue in the face, right? But I'm gonna turn my volume off there. And it goes over the Microsoft Media Player and some of the ways that it draws to screen, some of the technologies it uses, etc. So when you have, let's say, a few dozen at least variables, multiple factors involved, just playing an API file through Microsoft Media Player, imagine what the variables involved with proprietary player, proprietary file, etc. Do you even see all the streams? Is FFmpeg or your other forensic tools seeing all the streams? So lots and lots of things to understand, but that's what our training's for, as well as other trainings. With all of that said, Charles, I am at the end of my road here, well beyond our time frame. I apologize for that. Any other questions we needed to hit?
Just some folks saying thanks for improving Omnivore, and we appreciate the thanks. And reach out to us, let us know what we can do to assist you with your tools getting updated and getting training. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thanks so much for your time, everybody. Have a great day.